What's up YouTube, and welcome to the Anabolic MMA channel. And we are now coming off of the first pay-per-view of the year that had some incredibly interesting results, especially the main event, which could shake up the entire UFC, but I'm going to be talking about that in just a little bit. In today's video though, we're going to be looking at 4 fights that need to be made after UFC 270. And this is now the second edition of my matchmaking series, and I hope to continue to do this after every Saturday when there's a UFC event. There are a lot of details to look at and unpack from this surprising card, so let me get right into discussing it and making some fights. The first fight that I'm going to make today comes from a result in the main event, and that fight is going to be Stipe Miocic versus Ciryl Gane. It is so hard to make a fight in that heavyweight division right now, but this is the one that I think is going to end up happening, as Ngannou has that contract situation, which makes it even more confusing after he won last night, and then there's always the looming threat of Jon Jones, who is looking awfully excited after he saw how that fight went last night. My prediction that I've stuck with though, ever since Jones vacated that light heavyweight bout, is that he is never going to fight in the UFC again. I don't have much backing, and I know a lot of people will disagree with me, but I have a feeling that he has not been focused recently, and he's also too self-absorbed to potentially risk that undefeated record being taken away. And for Francis, I really do not even have a prediction on how that's going to go, but I do know that even if he does fight in the UFC again, it's probably going to be at least a year before he does so. And if you take those two out of the equation, I think Miocic and Gane are the clear number 1 and 2 contenders. Like I said though, it's anyone's guess on how this heavyweight division ends up, and with Aspinall and Tuivasa potentially just one win away from the title shot, they need to figure out this division and quick. So I see this fight happening in the late summer, and whatever happens between now and then, this fight could be for an interim or even an undisputed championship. My pick for this fight though would be Ciryl Gane by unanimous decision. Coming up with the next fight to make here after UFC 270 is going to be Raoni Barcelos and Brian Kelleher. I do think Barcelos would get a chance against a ranked opponent if he got a win last night, but he ended up fumbling the bag as a -500 favorite. I was incredibly high on him just a couple fights ago, but now with back-to-back losses, it really puts his career at a crossroad. Kelleher is really the same way. Even though he's on a 2-fight winning streak, it was against measly competition, with one of those fights being on short notice for his opponent as well. And before that, he has struggled when facing even the top 20 in bantamweight. Of course though, this would be a very fun fight to watch, and there would be some fun stand-up exchanges, although at this point in their career, it's not wrong to say that both men are nearing the end of their prime. Barcelos obviously got beat up pretty bad on Saturday, and Kelleher just fought last weekend and didn't get beat up as bad, but still went to a decision. So I could see this fight probably happening around late summer, early fall. If it does happen though, I see Brian Kelleher taking it by majority decision. The second to last matchup I want to make after UFC 270 is going to be Said Nurmagomedov versus Ryan Hall. I would not disagree if you said that Nurmagomedov was deserving of a ranked opponent, and I was looking at Pedro Munhoz as well. But the bantamweight unranked is probably just as stacked as any other division, and Said is definitely more under the radar than some of these other fighters, so I think he's probably still one more win away from getting a ranked opponent. And it would be no better fight for him than to take the fight against Ryan Hall, who is also on the cusp of being on the rankings again himself. Just like Cody Stamann, Hall was also on the rankings very recently, and there's no doubt that the winner of this fight will get a ranked opponent, if not slipping into the rankings already with a win. Two guys who are extremely underrated right now, and this would be a very high-level grappling clinic. Hall just fought on the December pay-per-view and got a win over Darrick Minner, and he didn't take too much damage in that fight. And obviously, same with Nurmagomedov getting a 47-second submission, so I can see this fight taking place early summer, maybe even late spring. And the final fight I have to make today, arguably the most easy fight to make on this list, is the champion, Deiveson Figueiredo versus Brandon Moreno 4. The third fight on Saturday essentially gave no closure to this rivalry, as it was a very close fight, with Figgy still pulling out with a unanimous decision at 48-47. Right now the series is tied at 1-1-1, although this rivalry has been so close, I've seen some people make the case that Moreno is up 3-0, and some people make the case that Figueiredo is up 2-1. And myself am honestly on the side that Figueiredo is up 2-1, although I would still like to see a fourth fight between these two men. If Moreno ended up winning this fourth fight, by whichever method, I would still concede and say that he is the winner of this rivalry. The biggest argument against this fourth fight right now is that the division would be held up, and although I originally thought that the flyweight bout in March between Askar Askarov and Kai Kara-France would be for a title eliminator, I honestly don't see either of them with a better chance at beating Figueiredo than Moreno himself. There has never been a fourth fight between the same two fighters in UFC history, and this would be a historic opportunity to pass up. This also kind of leads into my honorable mention fifth fight. Last week when I made this matchmaking video, I made the match of Brandon Royval versus the loser of Kai Kara-France and Askar Askarov, and I'm going to slightly change that just a little bit for Brandon Royval to get the winner of that fight. You can watch my UFC Vegas 46 fights to make if you want to see the full explanation for that, but I now believe that the winner of that isn't going to fight for a title anymore, and I see it probably happening on the November to December pay-per-view, so it would be a perfect opportunity for the UFC to put this fight on that card as well, so we could get some hype around the future of the division after the Figueiredo-Moreno era. And there it is, folks, the 4.5 matches that I wanted to make after UFC 270. The first and last fights that I mentioned on this video are two historic fights if they happen the way that I expect them to. And because of the results of them, it will be extremely interesting to see how the situation plays out. If there were any other fights that you wanted to see made, or you disagreed on any of these fights that I did make, comment down below and we could have a discussion based on the comments. But if you did agree with these picks, be sure to like and subscribe. And also, if you've enjoyed these videos, it really means a lot to the growth of this channel and also motivates me to continue making these every single week. Consider supporting on Patreon if you feel inclined to do so. The link is in the description down below. Other than that though, thank you for watching and I will see you in the next video.